weeks. Prashant Singhal, telecommunication leader at E&Y, is now joining us live. Mr. Singhal, thank you so much for taking out time for us. What do you make of the recent aggression that we've witnessed in the telecom space? Do you think it's coming to a fag end where now prices are coming so low that some of these companies may barely make any money at an EBITDA level?
Yeah, hi Pankaj. I think we've seen a lot of, there's been a lot of activity or aggression in the sector over the last 6 to 9 months, as you've rightly put. On the tariffs, I don't know if you've picked up, there has been some news about a further drop in tariffs or somebody matching the tariffs over the weekend, and we should hopefully see some level of sanity coming on the tariffs. These tariffs really may not be sustainable from a long-term perspective. I think the results of most of the listed telecom companies reflected a drop in the revenues as well as a drop in the EBITDA margins. It was both a factor of tariff drop as well as demonetization or intense competition and demonetization of currency. But if the tariff continues to fall the way they've been falling, with 20 cents a GB, a gig, which is in my view the lowest that any of the countries globally offer or any of the operators globally offer in markets, we would certainly see a big impact on the profitability and the capability of making investments by telecom companies to create a digital infrastructure or a digital economy for this country.
Right. Last 5-6 years, it's all been about, what's happening on the spectrum front, what companies operating what in terms of the capacity that they have got. Now you at least expect the capex intensity to come down because most of the players that are remaining in the market are pan-India?
No, not really. I mean, I think the capex intensity or the capex investments are only going to increase because 4G today is not covered by all the operators across India. So we will see, we will see spends on capex, 4G coverage and 4G capacity being created. We would still see 3G capacities being created in pockets, whilst the coverage may already be there from a pan-India level. But remember, some of the operators did pick up the spectrum on 3G in the November auctions, and therefore they would be using that and rolling that out as well. And I think as you would have read in the press and in the recent Mobile World Congress, 5G is not far away, and SK Telecom is already going to launch the first 5G network in 2019. So India is not going to stay behind that. So we may see 2021 or 22 as a 5G rollout as well. So I think in a telco market, you would continuously see capex investments. I don't think in any of the years you would actually see capex coming down unless the industry is so depressed that people don't have money to spend on capex. And I just hope that tariffs rationalize themselves and we don't get into that stage of an extreme depression.
Right. See, right now, what we are seeing in the industry is, of course, Jio has spent a lot of money. They have come out in the market with great plans right now. They were offering free, but now also their tariffs are pretty much aggressive. But once they achieve the target that they have, or, they try and get to a scale where they believe that, now they don't see much downfall from here on. Do you believe that, prices would then be rational, whether it's about data or about any other tariffs that they offer?
Yeah, I mean, not talking about any specific telco, but I would say that the tariffs have to be rational. The tariffs would be rational in the medium to long term. How do you define medium term or long term is dependent on people. But in the next 12 to 18 months, the tariffs have to become rational. They have to rationalize themselves. There would be a northward movement of tariffs. We can't stay with a continuous southward movement of tariff. Because at the end of the day, there is a business plan. It's not that every price in the value chain is coming down. It's not that the cost of equipment is coming down. It's not that the cost of regulation is coming down. The license fees is coming down. I mean, the input costs remain the same. There may be some operational efficiencies that you could gain, but if your output is continuously going to come down, you will not make profits or return on investment. And if we see in the last few years, the telcos have actually been a single-digit low ROI for the shareholders, and there's been hardly capital appreciation as well. So the sector really needs to rationalize the tariffs. I mean, without that, the attraction of the sector will come down, and if that doesn't happen, then you will not see companies investing into innovation. Innovation both in terms of cost efficiencies and in terms of customer experience, as well as more products and applications, and therefore it is extremely important for the tariffs to rationalize in the next 12 months.
Right. As far as the entire tariff intensity is concerned, so a lot of telecom experts are saying that the 300 rupee plan which has come from a lot of players is still much higher than the average revenue per user in terms of 185 rupees for data for some of the listed companies that declare numbers. How would you read into it? Is it very aggressive? Is it on the neutral side? How would you read the 300 rupees tariff considering that the industry average revenue per data user is around 185?
Yeah, but so 300 rupees tariff is an entry barrier which you cause, but with the 300 rupees and everybody's in the same range, whether it's 300 or 350, and now I believe over the weekend companies typically offering the same amount of GB on 300 or 350. So that's a good entry barrier to get in. It may uplift some bit of users who are in the 180, 190, 200 range to the 300 or 350 range. But the important thing is that the users who were paying 700 or 1000 rupees will obviously come down to 300. So from an industry standpoint, we may end up seeing some bit of losses. It may not lift everybody immediately up. Over a period of 6 to 12 months, maybe you'll see some shift, but on an overall basis, you will actually see a value coming down. Remember, the 180 ARPU is an average, but it's got 30% to 35% of the users who are far above 180, and then there are a lot of the users who are much below 180 and they're at 40 rupees, 50 rupees. So they would not move to 300 rupees in any form or way. It's really the marginal users which will move up to 300 rupees or 350 rupees of usage. And for that, the need has to be there as well. I mean, there is unlimited calling, which is a part of that plan. There's a huge amount of data, but where do you really use that data, and are you willing to pay for that data? So we would see some shift, but I think on an overall basis, the sector revenues would come down. Okay, I mean, the sector revenues, if you see, have been falling 6% quarter on quarter over the last 3 or 4 quarters. This is the first time that it has happened in the telecom market. So I don't think that with this plan, we would see that the fall in the telecom revenues would stop. We would still see some fall coming in, but there has to be some, as I said, there's some tariff rationalization which eventually has to kick in.
Right. As you said earlier that, if revenues come down so drastically as it is expected to, and cost continue to remain same or slightly lower with operating leverage coming in, do you think that in the end, it will be good services that will essentially attract premium or will continue to gain market share?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think services, so in this sector, services really are driven by the network experience. That's really the service that you want to use, and the customer experience, so the customer doesn't have bill shocks and the customer has ease of resolving their concerns and discovering new services. So clearly the operators which provide a better network experience, a seamless data session, lesser call drops, I mean, they would be a preferred network, even though you end up paying a premium for it, which could be a 10 to 20%, which we have seen in any service industry and in any service quality. You'll always find that the consumer is willing to pay a premium for a better quality of service. And I don't think telecoms is going to be ruled out or ruled away from it. It is not just that, with interrupted data sessions or call drops, you would go in and pick up a low-end network, which could be inferior in terms of qualities but good in terms of price. Yes, you'll find consumers doing that, but those are the consumers which are looking at more of just a telecom experience rather than a high-end customer experience. So we would see the differentiation and a premium pricing for a better service.
Right. Just a word on voice revenues as well. Do you think that voice revenue will slowly decline quite a bit as data revenue picks up, something that we have seen for SMS over a period of time? Do you think it can go as low as what some of the other services earlier have gone through?
I mean, I would say that, voice revenues will, globally and in India, voice revenues and the growth in voice revenues is coming down. It is bound to, stabilize or may come down marginally. Data is at the upswing. In terms of volumes, clearly at upswing, but with the tariffs of data which is there per GB, we may see some time before it starts really going up. saying completely that voice will disappear or the voice revenues will disappear, I mean, the answer is no. As I mentioned, there are a lot of these consumers who are purely still voice consumers. The smartphone penetration in India still is about 35-40%. We still have the 60% of the consumers who are on feature phones, and if they are on feature phones, they are going to use voice. And the smartphone penetration can go up to 60% or 70% by 2020. So by 2020, even if the smartphone penetration is 60-65%, you still have 35% of people who are on feature phones. So they would be using voice, and the smartphones are not going to completely move on to data and use VoLTE for the purposes of voice. VoLTE still has some latency which is involved in the experience of the consumer, and you may prefer a fallback option of a 3G or a 2G network for a better quality voice. So voice would be there, may not grow as we have seen the growth in the past. Maybe more plateaued, and we should be happy if it's plateaued and may even marginally decline, but will not obviously grow at the same pace as the data usage or data revenues would grow, considering the base of the existing tariffs.
Right. Just whatever we have spoken so far, do you think will lead to any forceful consolidation? I know you cannot talk about company specific, but the news report suggests that number 2, number 3 player are looking to come together, go ahead and make a bigger entity. Do you think industry dynamics could be changed because of such large M&A if it happens?
Yeah, I think the industry is clearly on a consolidation path. I think there's been some public announcements, as we know, Airtel, Telenor, Vodafone, Idea, I think. So there has been some consolidation. There are a few players which are left, and obviously Aircel, Arcom, we heard about that earlier. So the industry has consolidated or moved towards consolidation too fast. And I think there are still a couple of players which are there, which may have a market share of less than 8 or 9% RMS. It would be difficult for them to survive unless they pick up a niche and they focus on the niche. So there would be further consolidation. This market could at best now support 4 to 5 operators, and that's what we've been saying right since the last few years, that this market, like any other market, and if you look at the US market, has got 4 players in the market: Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. And India, which is not as big as a market as US in terms of revenues, maybe bigger in terms of the number of subscribers, cannot support more than 4 or 5 operators for them to churn reasonable ROIs. So the market will have to consolidate itself into 4 or 5 players, and that's the clear direction. The only thing is the pace at which it's happening is unbelievable right now. I don't think anybody anticipated that in 6 months we'll see such a consolidation exercise in this market.
Mr. Singhal, thank you so much for taking out time for us. Always good to get a perspective from you. That was a view from Prashant Singhal about telecom space and what really is happening in the sector.